Prophecy in Disguise, Chapter 4, Empire's Ascension.
You have execute authority!
A monotonous voice gradually embarked upon the guard's telecom systems. Multiple plasma bolts immensely catapulted across the alloyed stage within the elongated Colosseum. At this particular moment, the peculiar politicians had utterly discovered another evacuation route, thus ultimately allowing other vigilante patrols to sincerely embark upon this precarious scenario. However, multiple crowds consciously sustained their unleashing terror, utterly expressing unconditional angst. Within my complex mind, I greatly sustained multiple fragments of utter vexation, as well as sheer tranquility. A rather obscure combination of utter consciousness, especially acknowledging that the opulent senator had ambiguously ceased to exist. I passively discovered great satisfaction from this sanctioned death. Was this excessive bloodshed truly a necessity? My arduous operation had alas sincerely escalated, as I immensely robbed the audacious soul of Eli Norda himself.
Engaging all hostilities. Move it!
A martial individual presumptuously proclaimed, whilst greatly wielding a tubular bazooka. The Republican patrols, however, were consciously segregated based on each individual rank. Within this rather malevolent endeavor, another fluctuating sect of inflicting guards arduously embarked upon these metallurgic areas. Though their amalgamated armors were slightly more in mass than those of the military police, pale in vivid color, they consciously wielded alloy chest plates, which would strenuously absorb any other malignant impairments, even those of a detrimental lightsaber perhaps. Anon, I would ultimately come to vastly acknowledge each disciple's vitality. With conscious continuity, we immensely deflected each precarious plasma bolt, accompanied by our rather disreputable crimson blades. "We must flee!" the passive lady exuberantly proclaimed, as the martial patrols compulsively approached our sincere whereabouts, in an ultimate attempt of strenuously seizing us.
RPG incoming!
The fierce Twi'lek abruptly besieged, as a rather viridescent torpedo undulated across the ellipsoidal Colosseum.
Take cover, quick!
My clangorous voice utterly combusted alongside the piercing missile, which ferociously engaged a great collision with the erecting architectures of Coruscant. I slightly utilized the mystical prowess of the dark side in order to gradually prevail against the adversarial efforts. However, my crimson blade regardless pulsated across the opaque smoke, my utter skill sustaining an obscure belligerence, but I lost focus. As my vigilant associates unconsciously abandoned their sheer presence through the immense debris, I could vastly perceive multiple gunfire indubitably clanging within my perplexing mind. Even the vigorous plasma bolts ultimately ascended alongside my facial structures in a retaliating attempt of seizing my insidious existence. However, accompanied by the mystical prowess of the dark side, each illumining bullet gradually drowned within my crimson staff, absorbing its matter. As the amber flames abruptly consumed the very manifestations of the alloyed architectures, Tenea, Darth Kema'Tum and I passively slithered across the erecting balcony, thus sincerely carving a rather secure pathway, exterior from the martial catastrophes. Within this particular endeavor, we consciously grappled upon our onyx garments and sincerely shrouded ourselves amidst the opaque smoke. Atramentus particles which buried the exterior streets of opulent Coruscant. As Darth Kema'Tum, Tenea, and I surely discovered a rather temporary refuge, we could tremendously feast our sincere perceptions upon the distance, which was precariously enclosed by martial commands, immensely echoing. The passive lady gradually endured multiple sentiments of malignant angst, as her physical constitution apprehensively trembled. Her exposing phalanges consciously summoning the malignant mystiques of the malicious universe. She was immensely strong in the binding force. However, due to her rather emphasizing tensions, she ultimately mangled the sheer ability of utterly sustaining control of her insidious persona, her physical body abruptly abandoning her motor abilities, until the mystical force arduously robbed her indubitable consciousness.
Tenea!
The fierce Twi'lek tremendously besieged, as the passive lady utterly trembled across the metallurgic surfaces of an elongated corridor. As I immensely feasted my configured perceptions upon her dubious body, utterly lacking any congruent fragments of sheer vigor, a pulsating tension ambiguously sprained itself within my Thulmus mind. As the Opacuted Pre mechanically attempted to consume Tenea, accompanied by the exterior architectures, I strenuously leaped across the allied manifestations, which were slightly enclosed by amber flames, as well as hematite matter. Although my crimson blade tranquilly housed itself amidst my rather atramentous cloak, I summoned my alloyed armament onward my exposing grasp, and thus consciously forging an amalgamated pathway toward Tenea's inaccessible presence. Each opulent architecture had been malignantly severed by my kyber staff. However, a metallurgic boulder gradually conjured itself from the descending roof of the erecting corridor.
No!
I immensely besieged, as the physical manifestation imminently slithered across the passive lady. However, accompanied by my mystical prowess of the conscious force, I catapulted a strenuous grip onward the opulent architectures, thus presumptuously avoiding them precarious collision onward her rather aesthetic presence. Within this peculiar moment, she utterly sustained her cease of mere consciousness, as if the mental malignancies between the scrupulous objective and Norda's inflicting assassination established a potential trauma within her astral spirit.
I can't hold it much longer!
I passively proclaimed, amidst the opaque debris, whilst immensely attempting to forge a manifesting force within my stellar soul, accompanied by utter adrenaline pulsating through my very physical body. The boulder
shall not fall.
As I merely sustained my rather unorthodox stance of the mystical force, the fierce Twi'lek arduously leaped across the erecting corridor and scrupulously feasted his exposing grips upon the unconscious Tenea. As the disfiguring interstices gradually fluctuated amidst the alloyed surfaces of the elongated Colosseum, Darth Kema'Tum, accompanied by the passive lady within his bare grasps, and I, strenuously stumbled beyond the situational malignancies with utmost urgency. The metallurgic boulder thus precariously drowned downward multiple pipes, which previously gave birth to a fragmenting support system of the opulent construction. The alloyed structures were insensibly buried by opaque debris. Even the illumining lamps, which tremendously enlightened the local pathways, were utterly demolished, thus vastly establishing and impairing darkness within our perceptual senses.
I can't see bollocks through this incendiary.
The fierce Twi'lek rather apprehensively besieged, after I, once more consciously attracted my crimson saber to my very grip. Whilst merely functioning as a mere source of conditional illumination, the kyber staff consciously bled across the catapulting architectures. Within these momental endeavors of utmost despondency, I could tremendously endure a peculiar fragment of sheer despair. Molecular particles compulsively slithered across my exposing facial structures. However, my configuring vexation abruptly fluctuated within my pulsating physical body. The mystical prowess of the dark side had tremendously combusted amidst my internal soul. It seemed a ferocious storm tumultuously erected onward my tense phalanges, multiple electrical bolts arduously contorted across the opaque debris. At this particular moment, the alloyed walls atrociously dismembered themselves from the elongated construction, which ultimately gave utter birth to congruent visual stimuli. The exterior masses of Great Coruscant were visible. However, the sheer height of this peculiar construction, which we so dearly discovered ourselves in, was truly immense. The opaque debris gradually oscillating across the amber skies.
We must leap toward these structures, or we will die,
I rather neurotically proclaimed, as I immensely seized my crimson saber into its housing belt. Multiple platforms gradually manifested themselves from the pale clouds, ones which ultimately harbored the erecting facilities. Multiple flames arduously oscillated onward the erecting corridors, which tremendously encouraged us as physical entities to strenuously leap across the amber climates of Coruscant. Whilst vastly utilizing the indubitable mystiques of the conscious force, my onyx boots gradually digested the immense precipitations of the local climate. Even the tremendous robes of the fierce Twi'lek utterly slithered alongside the tremendous winds. Whilst consciously attempting to merely discover sincere tranquility over the previous moments, aerial vehicles compulsively embarked slightly below the amber atmospheres of Great Coruscant. As our physical bodies immensely oscillated across the airborne traffic, the passive lady gradually obtained her sincere consciousness amidst the firm grasps of Kema'Tum's sheer grip. Accompanied by utter apprehension, she strenuously utilized her mystical abilities to gradually leap herself onto a local platform. Whilst slightly supported by a illicit turbine beyond the alloyed surfaces of Great Coruscant, this particular structure malleably resided within our aerial path. Although the inundated traffic activity indubitably fluctuated, we as insidious Sith presumptuously ventured ashore the metallurgic rims of the local platform. Our onyx boots utterly engaging the consolidating surfaces, whilst peculiar interstices gradually manifested themselves from our physical impact. Due to our sensual collision onward the mechanical plane, the alloyed platform, regardless, ultimately conformed to the gravitational equilibrium of the celestial mass amongst Great Coruscant. The passive lady Tenea tremendously sustained her fragmenting consciousness as she gradually adjusted her atramentous garment over her alloyed armaments. Even her erecting saber abruptly sustained mere concealment as Tenea arduously elapsed beside an impuding Republican cruiser, her conscious feet sincerely remaining in a functional stance. As she gradually ceased her excessive movements, I could tremendously feast my mere perceptions upon illumining flames precariously slithering amidst the distant horizons. Onward, the Jedi Temple. Multiple vivid blades gradually collided throughout the archaic architectures, amongst another segregating platform ultimately residing above hematite walls. Once, the ancient statues of Jedi ancestry gradually erected onwards Coruscant's amber atmosphere. However, now, they malignantly drowned into opaque debris, due to Imperial starfighters neurotically embarking upon adversarial territories. Even the viridescent plasma bolts arduously escalated onto civilian constructions. Darth Malgus wielded utmost responsibility for this particular assault on Great Coruscant. Alas! A Harrower-class dreadnought, sincerely established by the immense company of Tirap starship manufacturing, vastly levitated across the amber atmospheres, accompanied by other supporting martial vessels. As their metallurgic engines abruptly clanged amongst the atramentous debris, Imperial forces have, alas, engaged in their indubitable invasion, artificially wielding advanced armaments far superior than those of Republican comprehension. This peculiar sight remained a true masterpiece within my perplexing mind. Finally,
we have returned.